offering a hand up, not a handout. It's a people first philosophy, and one businessman in Albany says he's using it, entrepreneur philanthropy, to help black entrepreneurs. We'll be updating his mission during Black Business Month in August. You're in the Enterprise Zone at the Nasdaq. Hello, everyone. It's Jabari Young, senior writer at Forbes, and I am back at the Enterprise Zone at the Nasdaq, and I have a special guest during Black Business Month, Ed Mitzen. He is the CEO and founder of Fingerprint Group, which is a pharmaceutical marketing company, and also leads Albany-based Business for Good, a nonprofit in the area. And again, this guy is so adamant, and he is very serious about advancing black entrepreneurs. Ed, thank you so much for joining me at the Nasdaq, man. I appreciate the time. Last time I saw you, we were on your 145-acre farm out in New York.
That's right.
Yeah,
Upstate
having
New
coffee.
York.
Yeah. First time at the Nasdaq. I can't believe it.
First time.
A successful businessman like yourself.
Yeah.
And this is your first time at the Nasdaq.
First time.
Well, listen, 2025, man, look, the year is halfway done pretty much, man, as we're heading to, before you know, it'll be Halloween.
I know.
Be at your house trick-or-treating.
I love Halloween.
Yeah, I do too, man. It's actually turned into my one holiday. I love having fun. Not even a holiday, but still. Give me your soundtrack to 2025, man. What's been keeping you motivated? What's been keeping you creative? What's been keeping you positive?
I'm a classic rock guy. So,
classic rock.
Yeah, so when Ozzy passed away, I listened to a lot of Ozzy and Black Sabbath and Zeppelin, and my wife knows none of that. She's on the hip hop station, and she listens to what the 16-year-olds are listening to.
Yeah.
I don't know one artist.
Yeah,
so.
Classic rock. Man, hey, listen, man, we all got some Ozzy. We listen to it from time to time.
Yeah.
So walk into a fifth grade class, Ed, and you walk in, they see this guy. Usually you have your tattoos shown. I'm surprised you didn't wear them now. They say, hey, what is it that you do, Mr. Mitzen? What do you tell them? What do you tell this fifth grade class about what you do?
So I tell them that I was successful and lucky in business, and I was able to make a lot of money. And now my wife and I and our whole foundation at Business for Good is focused on giving opportunities to other people that may not have had it.
Yeah.
Inspiring people, hardworking people, just need a little bit of extra juice, and that's where we try to come in and help.
Yeah, well, listen, that's a perfect segue. Again, Black Business Month is in August, and before we dive into what you're doing up in the Albany area, New York, give me an individual, right? Someone in the black community that maybe you've looked at from afar, respected for what they did on the business side.
I mean, Magic, you look at what Magic has done. I actually got to work with him years ago through GSK, the HIV business. And he was so wonderful to work with, the nicest guy I'd ever met. And I saw him going into the inner cities and putting his money where his mouth was, and buying up Starbucks and buying up movie theaters and relating to the community and giving back in that way. And I always found him incredibly inspiring.
Yeah.
So I would say he's the guy that and he's so happy all the time. He just brings this energy and jubilance to what he does that I find very infectious.
Yeah, man. It's every time he walks into the room, man, it's like a big smile.
Big guy.
Yeah. Crazy, man. Well, again, man, you're doing some fascinating things up in the Albany area as well, man, the city area where I had a chance to visit, a few months ago with you, and you were taking me around, driving me around to different areas and neighborhoods that definitely need help. And you're putting your money where your mouth is. Helped that area, get a black chamber of commerce up that area, purchased a building, and where that building is now, that chapter is now housed at. And then you're also investing in a lot of black businesses. Take me inside the mission of Business for Good and what you guys are doing up there for those people who may not know.
Albany, the city of Albany has been in rough shape for years. And COVID really was sort of the death blow for a while. And you look at the city of Albany has twice the national poverty rate of the rest of the United States. Not a lot of opportunities for people there. Crime, like any mid-sized city, exists. A lot of drugs, a lot of guns, ghost guns that have sort of permeated the younger kids. And what we try to do at Business for Good is focus on really 4 pillars: entrepreneurial and small business assistance, economic mobility and trying to get people up the income curve, housing affordability, and workforce and economic development. And just trying to demonstrate that somebody cares and we're willing to go into these communities, make new friends, make new relationships, and try to show them that we're here to help without an agenda.
Venture philanthropy, is what you call it, venture philanthropy. You started Business for Good in 2021. And apparently, according to the Wall Street Journal, you've invested $20 million up in that area, right? Wall Street Journal article in 2022.
Yep.
Break that $20 million down for me. Where did it go, and what's the investment in that area?
Yeah, fast forward to today, it's closer to 30, and it's been a lot.
You have an exact number?
Right around 30.
Around 30 million?
Yeah, it's give or take.
So from 2021, since Business for Good opened till now, you've invested about $30 million in the area? Okay.
Yeah. And it's been a lot of differing projects, right? One of the nice things about being blessed financially is you can try things, and if it doesn't work, it's okay. You move on and try something else. So the Black Chamber of Commerce, that was probably a $5 million initiative with the building, the rehab, giving them capital and cash and marketing support to be able to staff and get that thing going, develop a board. We had done quite a bit we purchased a restaurant in downtown Albany that had been abandoned in a really rough part of town, put several million dollars into that, launched the restaurant, hired kids from the community, and we just pivoted recently and worked with a nonprofit up there that trains young kids on getting culinary skills. Whether or not it's front of house, back of house. So we now gave them the restaurant for $1. They come in and they're running their culinary program out of there. 5,000 square foot kitchen. They can pump a lot of these kids through, get them trained, and then they can get, I like to say, good paying jobs, not livable wage jobs.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, I was at Albany County Jail talking to young kids that had been recently incarcerated. Again, a lot of guns, 15 to 17 years old. And to see the despair on these kids' faces, like their lives are shot, right? And I try to encourage them that, look, you made a mistake, you're gonna get out. There are plenty of tech jobs where you can develop skills, electricians, plumbers, sheetrock workers, culinary. You can get in there, and if you show up and you work hard, you can make a decent living nowadays. I'm hiring these folks, and I know there's a shortage of workers in a lot of those areas. Yeah. So I think just trying to reach into these communities and build up a trust with them, because they don't know me. Most people that look like me have probably screwed them over in their lives. I recognize that. So just trying to be a voice of support and help where I can.
Yeah, well, listen, the business model, again, nonprofits, I could be very skeptical about them because a lot of money gets lost in operational costs, and it gets lost so much in trying to run the business, and it doesn't get down and trickle down to the people that actually help it, right? If someone is skeptical about Business for Good, how do you get their mind to be at ease when doing business with Ed Mitzen and Business for Good?
It's a great question. We have a very low overhead. We've got maybe 10 employees or so. And everything that we funded to this point, for the most part, has been my wife and I's dime.
That's right.
So what we're trying to do before we went out and solicited donations is to demonstrate to people that we're not going to ask you to invest in anything that we haven't invested in ourselves, and that we can prove that it's actually working. Because you're right. I mean, I've met a lot of affluent people, and unless they can see their name on a hospital wing or an art gallery, they're skeptical to write a check because they don't want half of it to pay for staff and bloat and inefficiency.
Yeah. Once you look at, again, I'm there and I'm seeing the neighborhoods, and I'm, these houses with big giant red X's on them, and communities and neighborhoods just showing me when we were out touring the Albany area. This is a black population in Albany City, about 26%, if I'm not mistaken, and the total population in that area, about 100,000. $80 billion economy in Albany and the region as in itself, though. What are the opportunities here? Again, I know what Business for Good is going around and offering this entrepreneur advice, but what is the opportunity that you see when you're starting this nonprofit? Because again, you're trying to take this thing and go nationwide with it. Right.
Well, what we're trying to do is we've worked with a lot of public officials to try to demonstrate that through a business lens, we can accomplish quite a bit.
Right.
Governor Hochul just pledged $400 million to downtown Albany to try to rejuvenate it, and they're soliciting bids now on potential opportunities for, to sort of jumpstart the economy there. The biggest thing they need are jobs, right? There's not a lot of jobs there. A lot of them have moved out. When the state pivoted and did work from home during COVID, a lot of the restaurants shut down. Not unlike many other cities in the country. You've got 85,000 college students that are there, but then they all leave in the summertime. So trying to get them opportunities to stay, do internships, and just sort of re-energize the community.
Yeah, you started this again off the heels of George Floyd and what happened
Yep.
to him in 2020, murdered by a police officer. But after that, then Business for Good goes up. Like, what's working and what's not working? What are you identifying that, okay, you know what, let's stick with this, and maybe something you had to pivot on? Because again, running a nonprofit is so sketchy, it's so tricky, there's so many different verticals and elements to it. I always like to find out what is the business model of a lot of these nonprofits and how is it going to be effective?
Right.
What's working at Business for Good and what isn't working that maybe you had to pivot?
Yeah, so I've had to learn to be a better listener and not come in like, the savior, hey, I've got the checkbook, I know what you need, let me help. I had to really understand what their issues were.
Yeah.
And, we work with a soul food kitchen in Albany, wonderful woman named Kizzy Williams. And,
That's right. Yeah.
And,
great mac and cheese.
Great mac and cheese.
Yeah.
And, I need to understand what her needs were. She needed a catering van so she could increase her business. She wanted help getting set up on payroll, people on payroll. We renovated her restaurant. And then through her hard work and some of the connections that we had, we were able to get her mac and cheese packaged in the big grocery chain out there, Price Chopper, and now she's killing it. And a lot of it, I would say a big learning for me was getting in, building trust, and then putting the relationships that I had together with these folks that didn't have those relationships to try to improve their businesses. Where we've missed, I think, is where in the beginning, we didn't have a good system for approving grants. So I was just handed money. And, we had there's a nonprofit up in Albany called the Baby Institute, which helps young mothers become better mothers. Their van was vandalized, so we bought them a new van, which I was glad to do. But then we got 30 requests for vans, right? Yeah. And we had to create a system with board approvals and governance and things like that to make sure that we were backing the best folks that we could, knowing that when you start a small business, most of them fail anyway, regardless of what color you are. Mm-hmm. So, we had to say no to some people where we thought their business plan just didn't make sense or they didn't have experience in the market. One of the things I learned in business school was don't start a sports bar because you like to go to sports bars. You actually have to know something, have worked in a sport, and understand the business. So we had to, be careful with who we backed, but we've had definitely more wins than losses, so that's good.
Yeah, most definitely, man. Listen, in 2023, I remember you published a book, Wealthy and White, why guys like me have to show up, step up, and give others a helping hand, or give others a hand up, I should say. And in that book, you break down, why you want to level the playing field for people without the same privileges and opportunities you and your wife had as, wealthy white Americans. What did you learn about yourself writing that book?
I learned that first, when I started the journey, I was very ignorant in terms of how hard it was going to be to build this nonprofit. I needed to become a much better listener. I needed to establish relationships in the community. I also needed to be humble. I think I came in with a sense of arrogance, like, hey, I've been successful, let me help you, and not really trying to understand the root cause of what a lot of these folks were experiencing. I grew up lower middle class, but I didn't worry about getting shot. I didn't have to worry about drugs. I didn't have to worry about being hungry or cold at night. So just trying to understand the issues that a lot of these families were facing, and how hard it was for them to get ahead. The deck's just stacked against them. And I think I mentioned to you when you were up there, I used to live in a rough part of Albany when I got out of college. I was living in this cockroach-infested apartment. By the grace of God, I was able to get out of there and have a career and accomplish some really incredible things. And a lot of the folks are still there. They haven't been able to get out. They didn't have the same opportunities that I had. Their parents didn't own their home, so they couldn't borrow on a home equity line to start a company, or education may not have been there for them. They didn't have opportunities to go to college, or just trying to really understand the community. And I know a lot of folks like me that want to help, and they just don't have the relationships. They don't know the people in the community. And they're afraid of saying something that's going to offend somebody. They don't want to be canceled, so to speak. So they write a check to the United Way instead, which, not that there's anything wrong with that, but what we're doing takes a lot of work and really getting our hands dirty in the community. And
well, that's why I respect you, Ed, because again, I was up there and I seen these people's faces and I watched them and we've talked while you were walking down the halls, and I know they trust you, right? I know that these black, Americans up in Albany really are putting their futures in business for good hands and really hoping that you guys don't walk away. And so I ask you because you're kind of playing a contrarian here where you sit in 2025, right? You're still all in on helping black entrepreneurs where the narrative and the ideology of the company may have shifted the other way because of the shredding of DEI with the current presidential administration. Have you faced any backlash this year for continuing to what appears to be doubling down on your help for black
No, I mean, I don't care, to be honest with you, if we do face backlash. I believe in what we're doing. We've had to modify some of our requests for grants as we just started to do that and have it be for lower economic people as opposed to just people of color. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, where I live in upstate New York, there's a lot of poor white people in these rural communities that need help too, and we're going to be looking out for them too.
Yeah.
But I believe in what we're doing. I think it's needed, and I think everything will swing back. I think we've lost in this country a sense of empathy and a sense of helping our neighbors, right? And it's sad, but I'm optimistic that it's going to swing back the other way.
Well, let's flash back, man, and kind of talk about how you got there, right? You grew up in Voorheesville, New York, right? It's a suburb of Albany.
Yeah.
Me and you talked about it, but what was that like for you growing up in Voorheesville?
It was a very nice place to grow up. It was a sort of a country town.
Is it like Pleasantville, like the movie?
Yeah, I mean, I had 100 kids in my class, so it was very small. By the time you had graduated high school, you'd probably dated every girl in your class at one point for a week or two. But it was nice. Everybody looked out for one another. The parents all knew each other, whether or not if it was at Little League games or Pop Warner. People went to church. It was a nice community. It was not diverse at all. It was 99% Caucasian.
Did that change your outlook as you grew up and you started to see more diversity? I mean, how did that impact you when you're growing up and you really don't see any people?
Well, it made me realize, and it was like this when I went to college too, that in my fraternity, I think we had 2 people of color. Yeah. So again, it was just, I didn't have the relationships. It wasn't that I was, prejudiced or anything. I just didn't socialize, didn't know a lot of folks.
Yeah.
And it's been incredibly loving experience to be able to go into these communities and see how much they care for one another. And I wish in a lot of ways my community was like that too. But Voorheesville was a great place to grow up.
Yeah.
It's certainly not affluent. But now you look at a lot of these communities, and we did some economic development in my downtown where I grew up because there was nothing there. The subway moves out, the McDonald's moves out, the diner's the only thing left, and there's nothing there. Yeah. And you see that in a lot of these upstate rural communities where there's just, there's not a lot of opportunity for people.
Yeah. Your dad was a biochemist, right?
Yeah, he was a biochemist.
Your mom was a nurse at Albany Med School,
yep.
But your dad, he died 2 weeks after you graduated high school.
Yep.
Looking at it though, summing it all up, was 2 things of something that you learned from your parents that you're taking with you today.
Yeah, I mean, my dad always taught me to be nice to everybody, regardless of who they are or what they do, or I was told to be nice to the janitor, just like you'd be nice to the principal at your high school. And my parents instilled...
Well, the principal can fail you, the janitor, so of course you'd be nice to the principal.
Yeah. But, and just to, my mom was a nurse. My mom is 78 years old now, still works in a food pantry, volunteers her time in a food pantry. Like we grew up feeling blessed, even though we didn't have a lot, but we didn't, I didn't go hungry. Losing my dad at 18 was a really tough experience for me. We talk a lot about mentorship and how young men need mentors. And he was my mentor, and then he was gone. So my first 2 years of college, I completely floundered. I ultimately graduated 2.8 GPA. I wasn't a whiz kid. In high school, I did great because I had him pushing me. And so that was a learning experience to try to pivot and try to get my life together when I could have very easily just spiraled in another direction when that happened.
Yeah, but still, you do get your life together. 1989, graduate from Syracuse University with a degree in biology, of all things. Yeah. And then you work your way, go to get your MBA from University of Rochester, Simon Business School, and started working in the hospital for a few years. But I want you to take me back to that 30-year-old Ed Mitzen, right? The one who is, just coming out of working in the hospitals, learning the marketing and pharmaceutical side, transitioning into an entrepreneur. Because if I'm not mistaken, you were in Columbus at the time, and you're getting home and it's a very rough day. You got your 2-year-old son in the bed, you're watching ESPN and you doze off or zone out only for your 2-year-old to roll off the bed and then hit you that you're overworking yourself and that you want to go into business as an entrepreneur, thinking that that was going to help,
Yep.
you become a better father, a better husband. That 30-year-old Ed Mintzen, and one is transitioned to an entrepreneur. What's his mindset at that point?
I think like a lot of young fathers, I was really conflicted. If I was at work, I felt like I was a bad father and I should be home with my kids.
Yeah.
And if I was home with my kids, my career's going to stall. I need to be out working everybody. I need to be there turning the lights on in the morning so I can impress my boss. So I was conflicted. And when my son rolled off the bed and, tears filled up in my eyes and my wife was ready to rip me a new one, and then she saw how upset I was, I realized that I had to do something different. So I actually resigned the following Monday.
Where were you working at?
At Cardinal Health, a large pharmaceutical company, pharmaceutical distributor in Columbus. I love Columbus, Ohio, by the way. It's a great city.
Cited an under 30 summit coming up?
The only thing that was bad is every single person I met was a Buckeye.
Yeah.
So that was the only problem. But and then it was sort of like Cortez burning his ships. I needed to just say, okay, I'm going to try this. I had talked to a potential client before I left and said, hey, if I do this, wanted to start a consulting business. I said, if I do this, do you think you have a project for me? And she said, absolutely. So I knew I had a couple of months of oxygen where I could pay the mortgage and pay for diapers. And I figured if it doesn't work, it's not going to be because I got outworked. It's just because I always felt like I had a really strong work ethic. And it just, one after the other, it just started to work. And I hired people smarter than me. And before you knew it, I was sort of off and running.
And this is the communication company, Paleo,
yeah,
is it?
Paleo, yeah, yep. I had Paleo, and then sold that business in 2006 and started Finger Paint in 2008.
Yeah. It's 2000. It sold it for about $30 million.
That was the total sale, but yeah, there were other people that had stock.
That's right. You walked away about 9.
That's right.
Yeah, and then took that money and was able to roll it over to start Fingerprint.
Correct.
In 2008.
Finger Paint.
Excuse
That's
me.
right.
Finger
A lot of
Paint
people do that.
In 2008.
Yeah, yeah.
When you did that, right, starting a healthcare marketing firm, what does that entail? Like, if an entrepreneur is looking at this now, and a lot of people maybe without jobs now, federal government went through a lot of layoffs,
yep.
And they want to say, hey, you know what, the pharmaceutical industry is not going anywhere.
Right.
How does one start a pharmaceutical healthcare marketing company?
Right.
What's step one?
So I had worked at various pharmaceutical companies in the marketing department. So I knew sort of the game. I was a drug rep at one point. So I understood sales and marketing at the pharma level. I had hired companies to help me launch products and launch brands. So I knew what I liked and didn't like about them. And I felt like, okay, I've seen this world, and I think I could have what it takes to maybe build a successful company. I had a lot of relationships, which helped, and knew a lot of people, so I could at least come in and make a presentation and ask for some business. And it was a lot of just 80-hour weeks and working my tail off. I mean, I think back to the 3 a.m. wake-up calls to get a 5:30 flight from Albany to Philly to meet with a client, and it was an exhausting 20-year run.
Yeah.
It's a lot like you see on Mad Men in the movies. On the TV show. You have to go out and make presentations, and once you build up a nice reputation and you've done some good work and you've won some Clios, they will then call you and say, hey, we'd love for you to come in. You've got to have a real full suite of services. So we do everything from branding the drugs. So all those bad names you see, we are part of that.
So blame you for all
yes,
this stuff.
blame us and a couple other companies. Yeah. And then, branding the clinical trials, doing all the medical education, helping to educate the thought leaders, the doctors, patients, making sure that it's priced properly so it can get reimbursed at the managed care level. There's a whole, it's a very complicated industry and a lot of different moving pieces. Managing their indigent care program so people that can't afford the drug are able to access it. It's very complicated, a lot of high science. I hire people that, PhDs in molecular biology and genetics and, that can take, a complex scientific problem and distill it down into sort of a core element. It's very rewarding work. I know the pharma industry gets knocked a lot. But when you're working on launching a drug for Alzheimer's or a drug for pancreatic cancer, and you know that you're going to be able to be in a position to get these patients into a trial and helped, it's very rewarding work.
Something you've written or in your book about, maybe you have said it, but how most businesses, and I feel like a lot of black entrepreneurs probably fall into this most businesses, they don't fail because they're not good. They fail because they don't have the cash.
Right.
They don't have the capital, right?
Right.
Are you seeing that when it comes to a lot of, black-owned businesses, especially in Albany? Because you just mentioned, right, Ali B's.
Yeah, yeah.
Up there, we had lunch. Listening to Kitsy's story and how
Right.
she started off, she certainly had the entrepreneur mindset. She didn't have a lot of know-how. She didn't have a lot of understanding on what the business entails, how does it work, even though she had her own business. And here you go coming in and you're allowing her to get that knowledge.
Right.
And now she's on billboards and now she has her product in stores up that way. Because when you say business model for Business for Good, I'm looking like, okay, if someone didn't understand what the model was, you let me know if I'm wrong, you are going investing in these, black businesses or people who are in underserved areas. Teaching them the know-how, helping them perhaps, with the capital, renovation and things of that nature, and then hoping that they can gather those resources, fix their business, enhance it, and help the next person down the line?
Yeah, and that's it. Yeah, I mean, like with Kizzy, it was helping her to get a line of credit. She didn't really understand what a line of credit was. It's really, she's a miracle that she's been so successful without any of that help, without understanding that she might need business insurance in case somebody drives through the front store of her shop by accident, or how to set up payroll, how to get a good accountant so she can take the tax deductions that she's entitled to. All of these things, again, are just, it's not a big lift to try to put her in touch with people that we know to say, hey, let these folks help you. To her credit, she's like, bring it on. I'll take all the help I can get. I've met some black entrepreneurs that only want to hear from other black entrepreneurs, and I'm trying to say to them, look, I know a lot of people that can help. Let us come in.
Is that short-sighted? Because I find that to be the case too. You get a lot of people on one side of the fence, and they're all talking to each other, which I think is great. But you also want that diversity of thought, right? Because when I see what you're doing up in Albany, I'm thinking, man, you're not only bringing your resources, but you're bringing your business know-how so that you can help these people kind of understand maybe things they may have missed.
Yeah, I think that's true, but I also would never judge them for being skeptical, right? Because, they don't know us. You have to build up the trust with them. We helped two wonderful lawyers start their own private practice, Wallace Turner Law up in Albany, the only black-owned law firm in the state's capital, which is pathetic when you really think about it. And we helped them get going. And, I said to them early on, we'll give them some capital to help them get going, give them office space, computers, marketing help. But I can't help you be a better lawyer. I don't know when to hire a paralegal or if your rates are good, or I don't know anything about that. But I have friends that are white that can come in and help you if you want the help. And they agreed, but it was tough at first, and I understand it. And being women too, they want to talk to women and they want to talk to black women. But unfortunately, there aren't a lot of them around where we are that are lawyers. So, and the guys I know, they want to help. They've done it. They're in their 60s and 70s. They don't look at these small startup law firms as a threat. They want to come in and help.
Because it appears as though you earned the trust of that black community up in Albany as well as others. So you're off to a good start. But what does it take to run an effective nonprofit?
So I think it's you can't be a one-hit wonder. You can't go in and help these folks and then disappear. They want to know that you're in it for the long haul. You have to be authentic and honest. You have to have a structure in place. And this is where I credit my wife, Lisa. I'm sort of a bigger idea guy, but I'm not a detail person. I will openly admit that. So she is the person that makes sure that we're doing everything legally correct, that we've got contracts in place, that our board is set up and approving things the way they are. And I think you've got to be buttoned up, right? And that's been, having that partnership has been really effective. Having a great board, a great staff. It's been an incredible journey for us. We're so, by far and away, the most rewarding thing I've ever done.
Biggest positive surprise of Business for Good since 2021. You open it up, and
That's
I know
a great question.
Philanthropic, efforts have been in your heart for a long time with your parents, but you see George Floyd and what happened to him. You open up Business for Good in 2021. Here we are in 2025 now. So you're in. What's been the biggest positive surprise?
I know you know this, but we made a donation to the survivors of the Tulsa Race Massacre, and we went out to Black Wall Street and made a donation to the families. And the amount was $1 million.
Okay.
And the outpouring of national just cheers and support. And here's this guy in upstate New York going to Oklahoma to help these people that are in their hundreds that have been wronged, and seeing how many people that inspired, especially in the white community, saying, good for you, you guys, it's fantastic what you're doing. I want to inspire, the feeling that I got meeting their families and shaking their hands, and these were total strangers to us. I mean, I had tears in my eyes when I was meeting with them, and I wish that other people in our position could experience that level of unbridled joy that you get from helping people, where you don't have, nothing's in it for you, and you're just trying to help folks, have a better life for themselves. And I think I've been surprised at how unbelievably emotionally rewarding this has been for us.
Biggest negative surprise, something that maybe caught you off guard or you didn't anticipate?
It's very hard work, and you get people coming out of the woodwork that try to, I don't want to say blackmail, but they
probably try to take advantage though.
They think like, well, you've got money, what's the $1,000 to you? I need help here, I need help there. And when we don't support everybody, there can be some backlash. I've also had people online post about that I hate white people, which was surprising. I didn't see that coming. And I'm looking around going, is that, how do you even come up with that? But I think it's social media and it's all the anonymous.
How do you counter it, man?
I don't even address it.
Really?
I'm not a big social media guy.
You're missing out all the fun.
I do LinkedIn, but
that's safe.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I just don't engage, because it's like, you're swinging at a pitch in the dirt, right?
Absolutely. So. Get you out of here on some fun stuff, man. And first of all, thanks a lot. And for that entrepreneur too, before I get into the $1 million question, but I'm checking out Albany, Ed, and I'm preparing for this interview. There's a lot going on up there.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the areas you've showed me are very rough, and you walk around and you see these big giant red X's on homes again, and that means that if it catches on fire, you let me know if I'm wrong, they let the house burn.
Yeah.
And right now the real estate investment up there isn't as powerful, but they got the nanotechnology microchips. This is a tech valley up that way. I mean, $10 billion investment from New York that's saying this is only one of 3 national semiconductor technology centers in the entire nation, right? And so there's a lot of good stuff going on in Albany. And here we are on this AI phase. When you're talking to that entrepreneur about moving up that way, I mean, do you try to steer them into the tech sector? Because I know you're a restaurant guy.
Yeah, no, I'm not a restaurant guy.
Well, you respect the business of it because it takes a lot of work. You got to get the food right. You got to get the clientele base right. And you're hoping that people are going to walk in there, taste your food, it's going to be good, and then replicate that over and over again. Very hard work to do restaurant things in that nature. But again, technology sector is where it's headed at. I mean, do you see anybody up there or any entrepreneurs trying to start a semiconductor business with all these incentives?
It's funny. Literally 2 hours before I got here, I sent the person that handles our grant writing and said, let's come up with it. There's a beautiful church in downtown Albany that's been neglected for years. It's abandoned. I said, let's go see if we can raise some money to turn it into an AI teaching center and renovate it. Because I agree with you. I think if you go to college nowadays and aren't studying some type of AI application, and you're studying 17th century French poetry, you're missing the boat. I mean, everything is going that way, and it's going in a hurry. But what we want to try to do is, if the kids aren't going to go to college, maybe they can learn AI through tech schools and things like that. That's great. But there are other opportunities beyond tech. And if you decide you don't want to go in $200,000 in debt to study, medieval studies, you can, there are jobs out there for you to get, and you can have a really nice living and raise a nice family.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I mean, the tech sector is exploding. There's a wonderful nonprofit up in Albany called Ken Code, which teaches young kids how to code. I'm sure they're migrating into AI because a lot of that coding business is going to go away with AI.
Yeah.
So you're right. It's an exciting time.
It is. It is. I mean, listen, I might have to move up there myself. Get a tech job and semiconductor line. Get you out of here on some fun stuff, man. First $1 million question. $1 million. I know you made it already. Sold your businesses, but is that first $1 million? Is that when you made it when you were selling the communications company?
No, it was, well, I had, when I was doing the consulting business, we got to the point where we were about $5 million in sales, and there was probably about $1 million in profit.
Nice. So you were able to take and pay yourself with that.
Yes.
So that was your first $1 million in sales.
Yes. I had a friend of mine once tell me, focus on your second $1 million because the first $1 million's really hard.
Yes, it is. I know. I'm about $999,000 away from $1 million, but I'm gonna get there though. I'm telling you, I am. Okay, you're making it doing consulting. How did you spend it? What's your first million? How'd you spend your first million?
Kids, a house, nice house, basically reinvesting it back into the business.
Yeah, so you wouldn't change anything?
No, I don't think so.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Best money management advice you've ever received?
Hire people that are the experts and let them do it, as opposed to thinking I'm going to do day trading or I'm going to invest my own money, and just making sure you surround yourself with smart people.
Yeah, love that. Love that.
And all the estate planning and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's maddening. Get a good estate planner, a good tax attorney. Because when you start making it, they're going to come take a lot of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the more that they don't take, or the less they take, the more I can invest in the community. Like I said, I'm not buying a $500 million boat. I couldn't anyway, but I wouldn't if I could.
Yeah, we're gonna hit the lottery though. We might.
Yeah.
We might. Nielsen says Black America's spending power, Ed, is gonna reach 2.1 trillion by 2026. Now only months away.
Yeah.
When you hear that figure, knowing now also what you're trying to do in Albany, what you are doing in Albany, hoping to expand nationwide. You hear that 2.1 trillion figure by 2026, what comes to mind?
That it's doable, and that there's great momentum across the country, I feel. Are we perfect? No. Are there pockets that are in real trouble? Absolutely. But you look at where we were 20, 30 years ago, I think just the fact that we're here is wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm optimistic. I think we're going to get it right. I think we need potentially new leadership, more empathetic leadership, but I think we're going to get there.
Yeah. Look around the world. What country does Ed Mitzen invest in right now? Country or continent? I know you were just out in Africa.
Yeah, we've done a lot of work in Uganda. There's a very poor village called Jinja outside of Kampala in Uganda, and we've helped to build a school there with some other people and an orphanage. And the reason why we love to go there, the nicest people in the world, even though they make Albany look like Beverly Hills. But your money can go so far there. I mean, we built a medical clinic for less than $60,000.
Yeah.
So for us to be able to go there and make these enormous changes in these villages, build $5,000 to build a well so the kid doesn't have to walk 2 miles for drinking water. To be able to have that kind of impact in a small community like that is incredibly rewarding. And we go back every year. We love the people there.
Yeah, love that, man. 3 books that inspire you to perform your best or motivate you.
You're implying I've read 3 books.
Yeah, podcast. Beat me.
The Millionaire Next Door. That was an older book that talked about how many of the millionaires that are walking around us drive pickup trucks and shop at Walmart.
Like yourself, right?
So
nice
I have a pickup truck.
We were in, yes.
Right. They're not all driving Bugattis. I would say that one. I would say Cast by Isabel Wilkerson. That really was a punch in the gut. When I read that, I think I might have been telling you I had to keep putting it down like every 30 pages because it was so disturbing. But it was also, I felt like I needed to read it. Gosh, I don't know if I have a third right now. I'll have to think about it.
That's cool. Well, my third one is I'll give you a free, a layup.
All right.
Right? It's Good to Great.
Sure.
We can do that.
Sure.
Great way to end the conversation, man. As I always do with Jim Collins' phenomenal book, Good to Great. What's the difference between, and you should know this, Ed, the difference between a good business and a great one?
A great one has leaders that you want to follow, that care about the people in the company as much as the results of the company. They have high ethical standards, and they aren't afraid to take out the trash like they ask you to do it.
Yeah, I love that. Love that. One thing I didn't forget, I forgot to ask you then, what do you look for in an entrepreneur? Like, what trait that you look for?
I look for passion. I look for somebody that wants to work their tail off because it's a lot of work, and somebody that has some insight into what company they're trying to build. They have to have some understanding of it. They don't have to be an expert and have worked in the place for 20 years, but they have to. Half of being a great entrepreneur, I think, is just showing up and working hard. And when you get to a point when you can hire somebody, hire people that are better than you are. Because if I'm the smartest guy in the room, we're in trouble. Remember that 2.8 GPA, and it was a struggle to get to 2.8. So.
But you're a smart guy, though, man. You're a smart guy, man.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, thank you so much for the work that you're doing again, man. Haven't seen it personally with my own eyes, haven't been through that community and walked it with you and seeing how many people are actually counting on you, man. And one person, asked him to describe you. He said committed. That's the word that they use, and so committed. I hope you stay committed because, again, a lot of black entrepreneurs, a lot of black businesses have had their people turn their backs on them so fast. And so it seems as though that you're staying committed up there, man. So thank you.
Thank you for
Appreciate
having
that.
me. This was a lot of fun.
Man. Ed Mitzen here on the Enterprise Zone at the Nasdaq, doing some great stuff out in Albany. We'll have him back. Check on him, see what's going on up there next time. Thank you for watching.